Men are going to try to stop bad habits by this sheer brute force and this masculine willpower. But that is stupid. Think of the millionaire. Yeah, he worked a bit harder than you would have, but the only reason why he made that money is because he had the healthy habits and the proper systems to do it. And that's why men fail. Think of lust. Rather than going back to the source, we sit there on the can with our dick in our hands and try to fight it. But you're never gonna win. And that's because men think bad habits are an action problem. They're not. They're a system problem, a void problem, and an identity problem all at the same time. So if you can fix those three things, you can stop a bad habit all on its own. My name is Nolan T. Painter, and in today's video, I'm going to teach you the simple 3 steps to destroy any bad habit for good. But this is hard, so you really got to pay attention, and you really want to hone in on what you want to focus on if you still desire to overcome this habit. But that involves taking a step back. We're not ready for step 1. We have to realize a couple things, and that's step 0. So here's the ugly truth. Every bad habit exists because it gives us something. Think of it. Bad habits stem from desires. So if you masturbate, that comes from lust, which is just a desire to be loved. You want to feel something. You want to stimulate your body. It's not an unhealthy desire to want to be loved, but that bad habit just works its way around it. So look at it. What is it providing us? It's providing us comfort. It's providing us distractions. It's providing us numbness to the pain. It's providing us stimulation. I mean, think of good habits too. Good habits can also provide us distractions from pain. So if you really think about it, you have to realize habits give us something, bad or good. And once you realize that, you're taking a bit of a step into the right direction. So the habit isn't necessarily the enemy, but that void in our heart, right? Whether that is a void that is possible to be filled or not, that is the problem. So you can't remove a habit without replacing the emotional payoff. If you want to lust, can you shift that lust and that desire to sex to a desire for love? Right? That is a lot healthier of a desire in life. And given that you have a healthy desire, it then feels way more unnatural to masturbate because your desire is reflected around wanting love. So now you have an inherent desire to be a better man. You have to build habits around being a better man because your desire shifted. So you can't remove a bad habit without replacing the emotional payoff. So the first step in that is just being honest. What am I actually trying to feel when I do this? When you do the bad habit, you smoke or you gamble or you overeat or you overreact, what are you trying to feel? You need to reflect in that moment. Put your phone down. What are you trying to feel? And when you answer truthfully. And when you do answer truthfully, that's when the habit loses its mastery and its power over you. Because when you know why you're doing it, you start to realize it makes no sense. And that's where we come to the first key step. You replace it. You don't remove it. So your brain doesn't actually delete bad habits. It just swaps the pathways. After all, if the desire is the same or really similar, then why would you want to change the habit? Especially because the brain loves what's familiar. So if you have a desire to be big and your bad habit is overeating, well, your brain is still going to want to get big. So how can you work around that desire to go from overeating to getting jacked? And that's where replacing comes in. It's really hard. Like insanely hard. It takes a lot of energy for a man to stop overeating or stop lusting or stop smoking. That's hard. That's why they're called addictions. It takes a lot of energy. But then we have nothing to do. So we're spending our time sitting there going, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. But instead of just not doing it, why don't we do something that's better? So instead of overeating, why don't we go to the gym? Not only we're getting bigger, but we actually have an enhancement into our life. We are spending time doing something healthy that makes us stronger and more attractive. So not only you're not doing the bad thing, but you're actually replacing it with something that is inherently good, like going to the gym and being healthy. So not only you're less likely to do the bad thing, but you're more likely to live a healthier life. So replace the bad habit with something that fulfills the original need in a healthier way. Right? Even if you're scrolling on dopamine, it's a desire for stimulation. So how can you stimulate your mind that's in a healthy way? Maybe it's a Rubik's Cube. Maybe it's just doing some online quizzes. Who knows? But now you're stimulating your mind and you're getting smarter. And that's when we move into the second step. Because where does this all come from? Well, it starts from the beginning, the trigger loop. Now, people like to say, oh, well, triggers are, they're pathetic. You're a weak man if you have triggers. But think about it. World War I veterans, they had triggers, right? If you pointed a gun at them, they would freak out. They just saw all their friends died. So simple pattern recognition tells them if they have a gun pointed at them, they're gonna die. So they're terrified of that stuff. Think about if you're an abuse victim. if you constantly get beat up and your abuser just runs past you, that'd be terrifying. Not because you're weak, not because you're not masculine, but because pattern recognition and pure logic tells you, okay, if this person is running at me, I have to get out of the way or there's going to be consequences. Otherwise, you'd be an idiot. So bad habits are never random, and in realizing that, they're predictable. When you do this or do that, whether it's a familiar environment or a familiar emotion or familiar behavior, you can predict when that bad habit is going to arise its ugly head. So you don't relapse because you're inherently weak, but you relapse because everything around you is designed to remind you of the old you. So when the trigger stays, the habit stays. So you got to remove the trigger. Stop trying to brute force it. Stop trying to fight it when you're in the middle of trying to do it. You got to go all the way back to the trigger. That's why step 0 is so crucial, because you're going all the way back to the inherent desires within you. So that's where you interrupt the loop. That's when you create a new system, and tiny changes matter. Why do you want to make it hard? Think about it. If you really want to overcome this bad habit, if you really want to stop this bad habit, make it easy. Why would you want to make it hard? If you want to make $1 million, why make it difficult? If you want to stop masturbating, why make it difficult? If you want to stop smoking or vaping, why make it difficult? If you want to stop being this idiot, why make it difficult? Make it easy. So start small. Start so small that it's almost insignificant and it feels normal. But the more you can ramp it up and again and again and again, these 1% changes that comes from, Atomic Habits, I recommend reading it, then you can actually start implementing more success into your life. Right? And that's where we move into step 3. You have to find your identity. So all these little changes, they're amazing, but what do they reflect? Your identity. So most men try to change their behavior and then their identity, meaning they push for something and then they think their identity is going to follow. But that's not the case. If you want to be a strong man, you have to realize that never works. So the true change happens when you focus on your identity and then behavior and results follow. Think about it this way. If you want to be an Olympian bodybuilder, well, you have to do this. An Olympian bodybuilder is someone who takes steroids most of the time. They spend countless hours in the gym. They have strict diets. They bulk and they cut. And they have to know a lot about health and the proper ways to work out. So if you want to do that, you have to be a man who does all those things. So by telling yourself, I'm going to be the man who does these things, then naturally your behavior is going to follow it. And when your behavior follows, the results will show. If you want to be a man, or if you want to be a man who goes to the gym, then you're going to go to the gym. And the result is you're going to get stronger. So tell yourself, I'm not going to stop my tell yourself, I am going to stop my bad habit. I'm not going to stop until the bad habit is done. Rather, I'm not going to stop trying to prevent my bad habit, but I'm going to become the man who doesn't do it. You see the difference? There's a difference between the man who says, I'm going to stop it, or I'm going to start pushing against it, and the man who says, I'm going to become a man who doesn't care about it. I'm going to become the man who doesn't even need to consider himself as a man who lusts or a man who has these bad habits, because it just doesn't make sense. You have to push yourself beyond this idea that you're having these bad habits. You have to make yourself into the man, or convince yourself that you are this person who's never going to do these things to the point where they're unnatural. If you tell yourself you're going to become an Olympic swimmer, wouldn't it feel weird not to go to the pool? So if you really want to overcome these bad habits, it has to feel weird to do them, right? Not necessarily shameful, but it just has to feel unnatural. Because your desire has shifted so much with your new identity change. If you go from a man who his identity is a man of lust, to an identity of a man who desires love, who wants a beautiful relationship, and an identity of a man who wants to be a good father one day, then doesn't it feel weird to lust, right? If you want to be a good father, it's weird to lust. And that's where it comes in, right? Identity is the strongest force of your life. So you have to act like who you believe you are and who you want to become. So when you shift your identity, that's when the habit becomes unnatural and it feels beneath you, right? Men love to dog on mental health, but it is the most essential thing if you want to become a better man. You need to have the right mindset. And that's when the habit tries to come at you one final time, right? You're not safe yet. Yes, you're working hard. Yes, you're overcoming these things in the right ways and setting up the right systems, but it's still going to haunt you just a wee bit until you can fully overcome it. So every major habit you fight back is going to give you one final test. Whether it's a moment of stress, loneliness, or just boredom or anger, whatever it is, they're going to try to rise its ugly head. But you know that you would have crushed, or you'll know eventually that this habit is effectively gone forever once you pass this test. Once this habit rises its ugly head, once it comes to you one more time, just a little bit worse, right? Once that anger issue comes back, or that lust comes back, or that fornication or that overeating or that smoking, once it comes back just a little bit, that's when you'll realize whether you've passed the test or not. That's when you'll realize whether you successfully conquered your habit or not. Because this desire might come back, but did you follow through with it? That's the real question. It's okay to have these thoughts come back into our mind, right? I want to lust, or I want to do this. It's okay to have those thoughts come back into our mind. It's only natural. But how did you treat it? Did you pass the test, right? When you can name that test, when you can tell yourself, oh, that bad habit's coming back, I got to go back and try to see if I can fix it. That's when you truly passed it. That's when the habit has lost all power, right? Think of it this way. If someone keeps on trying to fool you, and you can easily discern when they're trying to fool you, they have no power. So likely with these bad habits, if they are constantly trying to weigh you down and you overcome them, and they come back and they rise their ugly head and say, Nolan, I'm going to get you again. And you say, no, you're not. I've already claimed you. You don't matter, right? That's when you know you've passed. That's when the bad habit has lost all power. It's one thing to stop, but can you stop for good even when it comes back to nag at you, right? But when you can't name it, when you can't discern that these bad habits are coming back, that's when you're going to fail and relapse again and again and again. So what's the point of these 3 steps? If you can't come in and discern when these bad habits are coming back from the source, and when you can't weed them out and say, you're nothing, you have no power, you don't matter, right? And you can even think on a simpler term. If you can't understand with regards to your current habit, think of a bad habit that you don't struggle with, right? If you are struggling with overeating but not with lust, think of lust. If lust comes to you, would it feel weird? Yeah, you'd push it away and it'd feel like nothing. Likewise, if you lust and you don't struggle with overeating, if overeating came to you, it would feel weird and you'd say, no, I don't overeat. That doesn't feel right. So that way you will know surely you've overcame that bad habit, because you can discern it and just push it away whenever it tries to rise its ugly head against you. And overall, though, this is the uncomfortable truth. You don't overcome bad habits by becoming more motivated. You overcome them by being more honest, strategic, and self-respecting. That's essential. A man's self-respect is the only way he's going to be successful in life. And the man you want to become already exists inside of you. You just have to realize it. But he can't appear until you stop feeding those bad habits, and until you stop feeding those desires, and until you stop trying to fight them in the moment. You have to be wise, you have to be strategic, and you have to respect yourself. If you truly want to become the man you want to become, then you have to search to be the man that you see inside of you, being fit to become that man. My name is Nolan T. Painter. I hope you can appreciate the things that I've been telling you and actually implement these steps. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, it's challenging. And yes, they will come back and try to topple you down. But if you can get these 3 simple steps just straight ahead of you, it doesn't matter how many times the bad habit tries to tempt you. You would have owned it. You would have totally overcame it. Think of it. If you are addicted to smoking and someone hands you a cigarette after you've gone a year clean, you're going to be like, no, dude, and you chuck it away. Right? You were tempted, but it just felt unnatural because you've been totally doing amazing overcoming that bad habit. So it's inherently possible. Well, not just inherently, it is insanely impossible. You can do it. Just try, right? And that doesn't mean forcing it. That just means going back to the source. So you know what? I'm going to give you something to do. Here's a little bit of homework. After this video, just sit for 5 minutes, right? Or until you feel comfortable, and just think, what are my bad habits? And more importantly, where do they start and how do they fulfill me? After all, you want to be fulfilled. So where do these bad habits come from and what do they fulfill me with? Thank you so much for watching, and I promise you I will see you tomorrow.